Okay. I got it. I finally got it, right? Okay. Here we go. Welcome to the HRart Rise Morning Show. Yes, thank you for giving me grace and continuing to bear with me and joining me, whether it is today live or watching a replay. I am so grateful for you, and because you choose to show up is the only reason that I'm allowed to show up like this every single week and every single day, doing the work that I love. So thank you. This week has been quite a week. I have mentioned this probably throughout, but one of my side gigs, I would say, more so a real true passion of mine, is is uh, is students. So I teach at my alumni, teaching some HR classes, predominantly there for the HR majors. I wish there was an HR major when I went to school, but there was not. And so I teach there and started teaching basically the corporate training class, which was the whole reason that I basically do what I do today in adult education. Is because of that class and the professor who taught me way back when. So huge kudos to Miss Tracy Oss, wherever you are, if you ever watch this. But I'm so grateful for you because you really changed my life. Did not know that when I was taking that class, thought I was just going through the motions, but here we are. And it had been on my bucket list that I would love to teach that class. And 3 years ago, I was given that opportunity. I am passionate about pushing the students to do things that I know that they're capable of. As someone who went into the work environment terrified and questioning if I was capable, which was a little backwards for me because I thought that if you go to college, they prepare you for everything that you need post-college. At least that was the impression that I was left with. And what I found was I didn't feel prepared at all. I was terrified. My first real job outside of college was an amazing opportunity. It was 2 hours away from home. And I thought I could handle that because I had lived away from home during college. But I was very much alone, and I was in a position that needed an HR practitioner, needed someone to really help them. And because of that, I was just so overwhelmed. And there was so much, now looking back, damage that I did to myself, energetically, physically, mentally, spiritually, that I am healing. That being said, completely 100% intentional that it had to happen that way, or I wouldn't be who I am today and pursue the work that I'm doing so passionately. So I'm grateful for the way that it unfolded, but also inspired to perhaps empower these students to enter being more equipped to be a catalyst of change. And I think today's time is really, we are overflowing with opportunities. I was talking to my good friend Marvin Worthy this week, got to touch base and reconnect, which we're doing more and more, which I'm so appreciative for. And he talked about not seeing the glass half empty or half full, but overflowing with opportunities. And I think he's 100% correct and very much aligned with what I want to talk about today in our heart chat, which goes with this catalyst of change. Anyway, so I say all this. So I teach and I'm very passionate about it. I push. And as a result of this pushing, I have birthed this mini kind of conference, which one of the speakers yesterday sent me an email, Miss Rona Lewis, if you're watching, and she said, thank you for letting us speak at your HR Student Summit, which I thought was a massively better title than what I've been calling it, even though I think my title has been pretty cute for the last 2 years. But I really just wanted to create an environment where students could see that they could be peers with these professionals. Many of these students at this class are juniors and seniors, and I wanted them to be able to prove to themselves. It's a very stressful educational process because I serve predominantly for many their confidence before they actually deliver. And then there's also a lot of trust involved because the facilitation and educational process that we utilize as trainers to facilitate is different than to present. And for most of their college career, educational career, they're presenting. So, needless to say, this happened yesterday, and it was an amazing event. We had 80 people register for it. We had anywhere from 40 to 20 at each session. It was all day because I lost my mind and decided that I was going to go big or go home because I have moments like that. But I feel like you have to do it on a small scale, which that was last year. And this year it's large for me to kind of play the Goldilocks theory and figure out what the right thing is. But it was just an amazing experience. One of the things that I will just say, and then I'll get off my soapbox about corporate training and learning outcomes and development. But I've been reminded between that event and also finishing a cohort of leadership ideology earlier this week that if you take the time to build the development and the growth programs correctly, the outcomes come organically and they're delivered every single time. It proves why the theory and the time and the intention is so important and critical because it just delivers. There is haphazard kind of designing that can happen and it still produces really positive outcomes because there's so many talented people out there who have a wealth of knowledge and you want to take that in. That's why when you go to a conference, you always have some sort of takeaway. But for me, I want to maximize those outcomes every time that someone says yes to giving me access to their precious time. And so it really is important to me. So it's been a busy week. Even though it's a beautiful week, it's been busy. And busy still takes energy. And so I've been trying to show myself grace while also having a hefty kind of task list that doesn't seem to end and never will end. And I think that's one of my greatest lessons as I'm learning as an adult is that it never ends. And as you complete things, it creates space for new things to enter, which is what you want and that dynamic. And so now it comes to how do we balance it all? Anyways, so that's my little check-in for this week, but let's move right into Post to Ponder and see what we get this week before we get to our heart chat, which is walking the fence of change. So Post to Ponder for today, April 16th, 2021. We're halfway through April. I cannot believe that. So post number one from Miss Gabby Bernstein, who obviously was one of my very first spiritual teachers. She was the first individual that really, on a very high level, massive level, resonated with me when I started my business 6 years ago. And clearly highly respect her, watch her journey. And it's always interesting to see how you grow and evolve in resonating with these individuals. They'll always resonate, but they definitely are teachers who are showing up to teach certain students. And that doesn't mean that they will be the only teacher that you ever have. So, but she posted this the other day that says, some of you don't even realize how you light up rooms and inspire people just by being you. You're literally magnetic and you don't even realize it. The podcast book club is actively right now reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, which was recommended by my medical Qigong teacher and peers when I was in class. So I literally had never heard of this book. And I feel like I've been living under a rock because everyone in this podcast group knew about this book for the most part. But I just started immersing myself into it. And oh my goodness, it is deep and nourishing and restorative. But one of the really big lessons that I've gotten recently as I've been reading is that when we operate and be connected and live in alignment and live this connected path or connected life that I like to talk about, us doing that is enough to start to create shifts happening around us. And I think that we just don't realize that. And I think there's a reason why we don't realize that. We instinctively try not to because we need to maintain the humility so that ego doesn't take over. Because as soon as we're like, oh, I just have to walk into a room and then everything is better, it has the opposite kind of effect. But the lesson there is for us to realize that we just have to show up and take care of ourselves. So those never-ending to-do lists that I was talking about, if I continually fill that with things and action items to do that burn my energy and not shift it back to be in a place where I can take care of myself and be in alignment, which today I had to move some things around out of priority because there is one thing that really keeps me connected, and that is writing. And I haven't been able to do that. So actually, after we're done here and I have one client meeting, I'm going to actually go and meet with my writing coach and sit and write. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be massively energizing for me. Like 90% certain that. And then on top of that, I'm also going away this weekend for the first time since we've been quarantined, locked down, post-lockdown, all that kind of fun stuff with my husband, and having a really chill weekend. So it would be really easy for me to say no to those things and push them aside. Is super critical to say yes, because it allows me to be able to stay connected and show up. So it's these very small intentional decisions that are so important. All right, post number 2. This is from, I follow love.healer. This is posted on April 6th. It's during the toughest times of your life that you'll get to see the true colors of the people who say they care about you. Notice who sticks around and who doesn't, and be grateful to those who leave you, for they have given you the room to grow in the space they abandoned, and the awareness to appreciate the people who loved you when you didn't feel lovable. Bottom line, be okay with giving the gift of your absence to those who do not appreciate and respect your presence. So once again, talking about this energetic piece of protecting your energy, relationships take energy. Relationships on every scale. So yes, the significant relationships, but the new ones. So even when I have client interactions, that takes my energy. My student relationships take energy. And one of the things that we have to ensure is that those relationships stay in a place where they are not sucking the life out of you. And one of the ways we can ensure that is as we get exposed to seeing people's true colors, and you can't see me right now, I'm doing air quotes, true colors, it's not necessarily that they're good or bad or ugly. It is that they're doing the best they can where they are. And we've talked in the past in certain episodes about different energetic vibrations where we all are on our own paths. We weave and cross paths at certain times when we need a lesson that person can deliver or support or love. And then sometimes we have to keep traveling on our paths and they don't stay connected. That is just a truth, a fundamental truth. Doesn't mean that person might not come back and weave back into your life, but we're all growing and evolving and living our connected paths. And there's no guarantee that our connected paths are together. And this is something that I've talked about in the past because I carry deep-rooted fear with this, especially for people that I truly love, that there might come a day where our paths don't make sense together. I've been very honest and vulnerable when it comes to my marriage, that just like anybody's marriage, it takes work and it has good days and bad days. But my husband and I have had really honest conversation about the fact that sometimes, not sometimes, if there ever came a time when we were better and stronger apart than together, then we would decide to do that. But, having those conversations, it doesn't make them feel better. And so this bottom line, be okay with gifting the gift of your absence to those who do not appreciate and respect your presence. Coupling that with the post that we just saw from Gabby Bernstein, our presence is so important and we have to protect the integrity of that. And if someone is not enabling you to do so, then be okay with the gift of absence. And I can tell you that some of the toughest relationships in my life, I have gifted the gift of absence. And I think the pandemic definitely aided in that a little bit with the physical boundaries that were established. And I think I talked about that in episodes during then. But what it did for me is monumental. Monumental. All right, last one is by Awakened Goddess. This was posted on March 8th. It says, a lot of things broke my heart, but fixed my vision. Read that again. So I think this just closes out nicely what we just talked about in regards to being present, staying connected. And then protecting those relationships and watching those relationships and ensuring that that all feeds towards that. And then this is really summarizing what I just shared, that a lot of things are going to be painful. Setting those boundaries, establishing those boundaries are going to hurt. They're going to feel like your heart is breaking because you don't want this to be the truth at the time or the decision that you have to make. But once you do it, the clarity that comes with it, the alignment, the vibration, makes it all worth it. So, and this is a post that I think it says, read that again, that many of us need, because we have to trust in order to step and make that choice and that decision. So those are your posts to ponder for today. And now it's time for us to get to our heart chat. So our heart chat today is, to change or not to change? That is the question. Being a catalyst of change is an internal, or not an internal, it is an internal, but being a catalyst of change is an intentional daily decision. A decision that can only be affirmed and sustained when it's backed by realistic expectations of ourselves. As the visionaries of change, we can easily get lost in the magnitude of work that needs done. We confuse our mission for creating the ultimate resolution while massively diminishing the work needed to begin the movement necessary to initiate change. This is the work we are called to do. It is the nature of this work that keeps us walking the fence. Today, I want to talk about those of you who really are feeling called to do change work, to be part of a movement. There are so many out there. In fact, that was very clear to me yesterday when I was on the HR Student Summit. The speakers that were there, the ones that I felt very drawn to, were being massive change catalysts in certain arenas of the HR function. There are so many opportunities. It truly is overflowing. And if you find yourself being called in that fashion, that's who I'm talking to today. We are in a time that is allowing us to manifest or we're we are in a time where we know that there is actually a realistic possibility that we can manifest change, that things can be different than ever before. Yes, I can argue and say I was disconnected, I was disengaged, but I do remember very clearly times before where I was okay being in the status quo. I was okay not challenging certain scenarios. And I don't think it was just because I was disconnected and disengaged. I think it was because I think I knew that my energy was not going to be used wisely trying to fight that or step up. It was not the time. I also think there's a reason why it took me 6 years to get such clarity on the work that I wanted to do. I remember starting Leadership Arts Associates on day one and asking myself, what is it that you want to bring to the world? Marie Forleo, huge business coach on YouTube, asks all the time in her episodes, or states that you have this special gift that no one else has to offer the world, so you need to show up. And I had no idea what that was. I mean, I knew what my strengths were. I knew what my gifts were. I had no idea how that articulated into my field. And it's taken all this time for me to know. But I think it has been a perfectly timed evolution that corresponds with the overflowing amount of opportunities that are happening right now. Those of us who are feeling called to show up, to manifest change in these pivotal, monumental aspects of healing the world, it's a daunting task. It also requires you to be at the forefront, which is lonely. It is scary. It is terrifying. And we've talked about that in a couple of the previous episodes, is leaping from the cliff, trusting that it will be okay. Today, I want to share with you a lesson that I recently just had about the fact that, when we are choosing to be part of making change happen, it feels like every day we are walking the fence. We're kind of walking this tightrope, going back and forth, and trying to decide every day if it's worth it. Is it worth it to maintain the balance, to sustain it and keep moving forward? Do I just want to get off the fence and go do something that I know is comfortable? And I deal with that on a regular basis. I would say that it's a daily basis. That blurb that we just read about our chat today, that is what is happening internally with me. But every time that I articulate that out loud, whether to a coach or to a mentor, the response that comes back is, that's true. You could totally get off the fence. You could go do whatever. You totally could. We all know that you're not. And so it made me ask, why? And last week for persistence, I think we answered that why question as to the things that were in place that kept making me move forward. Today, what I want to talk about is a shift that I think needs to happen in our mindset once we realize and own that we're going to be on this fence and we're going to walk this, to make sure that we are capable of continuing to move forward and manifesting this huge, massive vision that we have. Because if you are like me, you dream big. And that's been kind of your MO. You dream big, and you should dream big. But then there's a balance with, I don't want to say realism, but almost the path and the pace that it takes to get there. So let me dive into my 3 points for today, because I think they're going to lay this out really nicely. So number 1 is expectations. So I want you to adjust these expectations. And what I mean by that is, earlier this week, I think this image illustrates it perfectly. But we see these big visions in our head. We have these big dreams. And if we equate that to it being this beautiful tree, the way that a tree grows, and this tree and its all great, mighty magnificence and size is the exact equivalent of whatever big vision and dream that we have for the world. This is what drives you. This is the path that you're on to manifest change. Well, what I want to share with you is that the expectation and the drive and the pace that you may be sustaining is in an effort to be able to sit under this tree, to sit on a park bench across the street and just bask in its beauty and its glory and its fabulousness. But what I'm going to tell you is that the change and the dream that you have is so much bigger than your lifetime. You're never going to be able to sit under that tree. It's unrealistic to think that. It does not mean that you're not creating that tree. It's just not going to be there in your lifetime. It's not going to be that size that you feel like you're able to just chill out underneath it and read a book. It's just not going to happen unless you find some fountain of youth that gives you immortal life. You're not going to see this at its end, its destination. It's about the entire journey. Your change, your powerful, inspirational path is all about the journey. So that brings me to my second point, is that your focus is on the growth spurts. It's on your little sproutlets. I've been following this sprout guy on Instagram because sprouts, from a health reason, are this massive thing. But he talks about how powerful sprouts are. And when a plant is sprouting, how it holds all the massively intelligent, complicated, complex DNA of this plant and all of its benefits. We are at a time where we are creating sprouts for those trees, and in fact, multiple trees. So one day, way beyond your lifetime, maybe not so far beyond your lifetime, but when those trees do materialize, it is going to be a forest, a jungle, a beautiful landscape, which is what really is that big dream and vision. You may be seeing that one tree, but really what you're seeing is a forest. You're seeing a massive, beautiful immersion of beauty. And so for us, where we're at in this evolution, our focus is on the seeds, planting the seeds and nourishing the sprouts, nourishing that initial growth. And knowing and trusting that this is your part of the journey, and these sprouts are going to be what turn into those trees that will have their magnificence one day. And the best thing that you can do, going right back to Post to Ponder, is be the example by finding that balance, walking that line, knowing and trusting and pacing yourself to just be. Stay connected. Stay connected. If there's anything that I've learned over the last month, 3 months, since I've been doing a rebrand, gaining clarity, gaining this crystal clear clarity that I've never had before, it is the importance of us staying connected and feeling what that is, being connected to ourselves, that inner wisdom that's within us. Feeling that vibration is critical, essential, vital. which is why I want to end our HRart Rise morning shows with pauses, a permission for you to connect, providing you permission, a pause, a permission pause, a time to connect and to feel. Because I just don't think that we get those times throughout the week. And if at least when you watch here, I can give you a minute or two to just breathe and go inward, then that's 100% worth it. And I also think it lets go. I mean, I think affirmations are massively helpful with shifting mindset. But I think for us, being connected and having those moments of listening within surpasses any sort of outward shift we think we can materialize on our own. So with that, I'm going to ask that you, I'm going to invite you, because obviously there's no mandated thing here, but I'm going to invite you to participate in a pause, putting our feet flat on the ground. If you want to stand, you can. Hands on the knees, closing the eyes. Slowly breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. Feeling the belly filling on the inhale and emptying on the exhale. Take notice of any sensations you may feel in the body with no judgment. It could be pain, it could be discomfort. I want you to feel the warmth of the energy coming off of your hands onto your knees. If you're standing, you can place one hand on top of the other over the navel and feel the warmth as it enters your body. And let's just end by doing 3 cleansing breaths to release anything that is within the body that does not serve us and we're ready to let go of. So go ahead and inhale in and exhale out through the mouth. Inhale in. Exhale out through the mouth. One more. Inhale in. Exhale out through the mouth. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Stay connected, and I'll see you next time.